Okay, some of you are going to love this. This is a key piece of evidence from the Massa court case. Now, before I get into it, I need to give a shout out to this guy on Instagram, that app that the kids are all addicted to. F1 Interesting 87. If you're on Instagram, go and follow this guy. He's putting out a lot of really good stuff about the corruption in Formula One. And he is the person that has sent me this information. I've also had it sent by somebody else as well, but I'm keeping their identity a secret for now. So go and drop them a follow on Instagram, please. What is the situation here? Well, the situation here is, and we can report on the BBC what the BBC says about the Massa case. You know, it's also quiet about what the BBC say. What happened there? Okay, it tells you what happens, but what it says here is that Quest, which is the lawyer representing Bernie Ecclestone and the FIA and Formula One, what Quest, who is a legal barrister, an expert of the law, a UK judge, his argument in defence of Ecclestone is Ecclestone, who turned 95 on Tuesday, does not remember giving the interview. Well, Bernie may have forgot, but you know what? Here's the interview. Let's have a look. Here's the interview. F1 Insider. Now, you'd have thought that a King's Counsel barrister could have done the research. You know, it's not hard, is it? You dead behind the eyes. Fuck. No, it's not that hard, is it? Because this is this man's credentials here. Look at him. He practices a whole range of commercial disputes with a focus on banking and finance, commercial and financial fraud, investments and joint venture. You'd have thought this guy is capable of doing a little bit of research, wouldn't you? International trade, technology, computer. Oh, this guy's incredible, isn't he? And professional negligence. I'd say it's pretty fucking professional negligence if you can't find the fucking evidence and claim to a court of law that, oh yeah, he doesn't remember. When the evidence exists, you cunt. He has a large offshore practice, particularly in the Cayman Islands, the British Virgin Islands, the Bahamas, and the United Arab Emirates. He's a skilled advocate in the court and arbitration. Oh, he's good at speaking for. He's good at speaking for Bernie. Oh, yeah, I'll speak for Bernie. Bernie doesn't remember. We'll see what Bernie actually said in this report. And a formidable cross-examiner with a particular facility for handling complex financial and technical material. Couldn't find the evidence, though, could he? He was appointed a Deputy High Court Judge in 2023. This is a Deputy High Court Judge who lacks the basic concept of providing the fucking evidence of somebody saying something rather than presenting to a court that, he just doesn't remember because he's 95 and he just does not remember. And that's a quotation of what he actually said. Quest said that Ecclestone doesn't remember. But this is what it is. Let's have a look. F1 Insider. Ecclestone breaks silence over F1 scandal. Schumacher would be sole record world champion. This is an article by Ralph Back, produced on March the 1st, 2023 at 2:58 p.m. I'm going to leave the link in the description to this video, which is the link at the top there, so you can go and have a look at this. You will need to translate this page to the English language because it's in German. So we'll read it through. Bernie Ecclestone is known for his controversial statements. Here he reveals which Formula One scandal he should not have prevented. He should not have prevented? What? Lewis Hamilton won't be happy, but fans of Michael Schumacher, Ferrari, and Felipe Massa will. So this is Ralph's take on it, but Ralph is also wrong. Okay, because Ralph doesn't understand, just like many people whose efficacy is trusted, and the reality is they're thick as fuck. Okay, Ralph, you've been misled. Okay, you can't actually work out the process of this because you've been conditioned to believe it a certain way. My videos will evidence otherwise. Anyway, Bernie Ecclestone, who was then 92, is on everyone's lips again at the moment. His live documentary, Lucky, is a hit. Not only Formula One enthusiasts watch it on Dazn, Dazn. There, Ecclestone openly describes how he turned a small collection of race-mad garage owners into one of the biggest sporting events in the world. He talks about drivers, friends, events, and brings the viewer behind the curtain of the billion-dollar business. I'm guessing some of these sentences are a little bit strange for us to read because of the translation. Okay. But he does talk about one of the biggest scandals in sports history. He is now making up for it shortly before the start of the new Formula One season on Sunday in Bahrain. What about Bahrain? The incident occurred in 2008, and the starting point, Renault driver Fernando Alonso surprisingly won the Singapore Grand Prix. The Spaniard benefits from a safety car period that comes at exactly the right time for him, ironically triggered by an accident by his teammate at that time, Nelson Piquet Jr. Oh, isn't it great that a safety car is triggered at just the right time? You couldn't make that up, could you? The Brazilian crashed into the wall on the narrow street circuit on lap 14, not turn 14. Alonso won. World Championship contender Lewis Hamilton in the McLaren Mercedes finished third and scored 6 points, while his challenger Felipe Massa came away empty-handed. The reason was a completely misguided pit stop, which would never have taken place without the safety car phase. You see, again, what you've focused attention on there is incorrect. It's nothing to do with misguided. In any Grand Prix, if a safety concern arises, if an incident occurs where race control has to intervene, the teams will seek to utilise that as an opportunity to gain a cheaper pit stop. Even if it's not their originally planned strategy, they will think on their feet and they will use that as an opportunity for that change, for that refuel. It's nothing to do with misguided. Okay, were all of the other teams who successfully pitted and got their drivers back into that race still able to challenge for points in that race? Were they misguided as well? No, they weren't misguided. They did what they do, okay, and they didn't mess it up. The problem was, and the reason was, that Ferrari messed that pit stop up by releasing Massa with the hose attached. So what you're doing here, Ralph, okay, is misleading the public with your method of reporting. So, the reason was a completely misguided pit stop. Wrong. Which would never have taken place without the safety car phase. That could be true, but that is true in any event. In any event where the safety car is deployed, then we see cars pitting. Those cars most likely would not have pitted at that time were it not for the safety car. It is normal in this sport that is the reaction of those teams. So, and until Massa was confidently in the lead, and until, I'm guessing this is again the translation, and until the pit stop, Massa was confidently in the lead. A year later, it turned out that the whole action was planned by the Renault team management. It went down in Formula One history as the Crashgate. One thing is certain, at the end of the year, Hamilton won his first of 7 World Championship titles with a 1-point lead over the unfortunate Ferrari driver Massa. Today he shares the record of 7 World Championships won with German racing legend Michael Schumacher. So we've got a picture of the crash car of Piquet Jr. But does the 2008 title really belong to Lewis Hamilton? ? According to Ecclestone, no. The Briton clarifies with F1 Insider what really happened in the weeks after Singapore. Ecclestone, and this is a quote of Ecclestone. This is what Ralph, and we'll get to the bottom to get his name right. This is what this journalist reports as a statement from Ecclestone. You should have a recording of this interview. If not, you are a member of the press that could be then held accountable for false reporting, because this is the information that people are going on, that the press have reported to the people as authentic information. So if you've got this wrong, here is a case against the press for misleading the public. Do you see there? There's a win-win, isn't there? Yes, there's always a win-win. So either way, I'm reporting on the valid information that we are supposed to believe is valid information. Ecclestone, in quotation marks. Max Mosley, the FI president, and I were informed during the 2008 season about what has happened in the race in Singapore. Piquet Jr. had told his father, Nelson, three-time Formula One world champion, editor's note, that he had been asked by the team to deliberately drive into the wall at a certain point in time to trigger a safety car period and thus help his teammate Alonso. So Ecclestone knew about Crashgate before. An announcement that Nelsino Piquet, young Nelson Piquet Jr., could not refuse. Piquet Jr. was afraid of his contract extension. So what's this then? It's coercion, isn't it? It's essentially blackmail. If you reveal that we've got you to commit a criminal, fraudulent act, then you will not get a contract extension. That's a crime. That's blackmail by his Renault team, Briatore. Okay, so he was under a lot of pressure and agreed. That's coercive behaviour. Ecclestone continues, we decided not to do anything for the time being. This is quotations. Ecclestone says, we decided not to do anything for the time being. That is acknowledgement of knowing about something and covering it up, seeking to hide it from the world, to protect Formula One, to protect the image of Formula One, to protect the marketing value of Formula One. And he stays, it continues within this quotation. So I'll read it from the top. We decided not to do anything for the time being. We wanted to protect the sport and protect it from a huge scandal. That is why I persuaded my former pilot, Nelson Piquet, with angelic tongues to keep calm for the time being. So that is Bernie Ecclestone using his influence to get others to remain silent and to not take the appropriate action. This is Bernie Ecclestone confirming that he had been made aware during the 2008 season and that the FIA were aware during the 2008 season. This is reported in this article. You have to accept this as being an authentic account of that interview. A recording of that interview should exist. If you want to question this interview, you've got to put this man on the stand. You've got to make him swear an oath, and you've got to make this man swear that he is telling the truth in regard to this, if 95-year-old Bernie can't remember. This exists. So, you have to know, as the former Britain further reveals, and again quotation, there was a rule at the time that a World Championship classification was untouchable after the FIA award ceremony at the end of the year. So Hamilton was presented with the World Championship trophy and everything was fine. At least that is how it seemed. Now the simplicity is this, and this is for you. I'll get to the end, Ralph. I'll get to the end and I'll explain. But in 2009, the case came to light. The then Renault managers Flavio Briatore and Pat Symonds, as well as Nelson Piquet Jr., were banned by the Automobile Authority because of the intentionally caused accident, when Alonso went unpunished because he could not be proven to be complicity. Okay, couldn't be proven to be complicit. Again, translation here. A picture of Bernie. Today, Ecclestone takes a critical view of all of this. We had the information in time to investigate the matter. This is a quotation from what Bernie said, reported in this interview on the 1st of March 2023. We had the information in time to investigate the matter. According to the statutes, however, we would probably have had to cancel the race in Singapore under these conditions. No, that's not according to the statutes. Okay, because you don't have a statute whereby, let's get those statutes, shall we? And let's look at the validity of those statutes. Because if somebody cheats, what you do, you apply a penalty to the cheat. You do not void the event. If you had a statute saying that if somebody cheats in this event, the entire event is void, then that statute is invalid. It's a tool of manipulation. As I've explained before, that can be manipulated. Somebody could utilize that statute to say, we are winning the championship. We have a lead in the championship, and our main rival is behind us by 5 points in the championship. We now go into the last race of the championship. Our main rival is on course to overtake us in that championship because they are far outperforming us in this event. We will ensure that a cheat takes place, whether it's one of our own cars, one of our B team cars, whether if it's the cars that we've paid to cheat, or we've blackmailed to cheat because we supply engines to them. Cheating takes place in that event, so they void the event and you maintain your lead in the championship and win the championship because the event is voided due to cheating. A ridiculous statute. That is why you do not void events in sport. That is why you just penalise the cheats in sport. That is what you do. There was no asymmetry in the outcomes to the teams. All of the other teams that pitted during that safety car situation that was caused by a cheat, they all went into the pits, they all changed their tyres and they all refueled and they got back onto track and they were able to challenge for positions and they achieved World Championship points. Massa would have been able to do that too. The only reason that wasn't possible for Massa was the mistake of the Ferrari team, releasing him with the fuel rig still attached, costing him time, and as a result of the unsafe release, costing him a further imposed penalty, which was a valid imposed penalty. Those two events combined led to the mental destruction of Felipe Massa in that race. He drove atrociously for the remainder of the race. He span his car, couldn't get one of the fastest cars in that event past the back markers and couldn't make his way into the points. That's the problem. So Ecclestone's critical view of the notion of we would have probably had to cancel the race in Singapore under these conditions is a falsehood. This means that it would have never taken place for the World Championship standings. That's a convenient portrayal of the event to remanufacture it now, isn't it? To manufacture it to remove a title from Lewis Hamilton and award it to Felipe Massa by again manipulating it wrongly to achieve that outcome. Then Felipe Massa would have become world champion and not Lewis Hamilton. The reality of what you do, when you find out that somebody's cheated, you disqualify them and you disqualify their team. You reallocate the positions in that race, which elevates Lewis Hamilton up to second position in the Singapore Grand Prix, which means he gets 2 additional points in that Drivers' Championship. Massa would have still got 0. He'd have been elevated from 13th to 12th. Still 0 points. Which means going into that final Grand Prix of the season, Massa, rather than having the 7-point lead in that championship, has actually got a 9-point lead in that championship. Which means that in that final race in Brazil, rather than needing a minimum of 4 points to be guaranteed the title, regardless of Massa winning or not, Hamilton would have only needed 2 points, would have only needed to finish 7th. Therefore, the overtake of Timo Glock on that last lap would have been irrelevant. Timo Glock would not have received the death threats that he received. Nico Rosberg would have been awarded the Grand Prix victory in 2008 of the Singapore Grand Prix, winning his first Grand Prix in his 50th Grand Prix. How would that have affected his career opportunities, his career earnings, his career bonuses? How he was perceived as a driver for winning that race at that stage of his career. He had to wait till his 111th Grand Prix before he was recorded as being a Grand Prix winner when he won a race on his 50th Grand Prix that Ecclestone covered up. How many millions in compensation and damage did that do to Nico Rosberg? Every team, Renault should have been disqualified, meaning all of the 6 teams that finished below Renault in that championship, they all needed to be elevated a position in the Constructors' Championship. Each of them teams earning in the region of an additional £10 million in prize money from their finishing position in that championship. Each of the employees of each of those teams, therefore, missing out on that proportion in their annual bonus, which is linked to their prize money that their team achieves. All of them employees lost out. The 3 teams that finished above Renault in that championship, all of them did, because Renault should have been disqualified. Ecclestone covered that up. All 9 teams that didn't cheat should have then got the 10th place pot shared between them, which would have meant more prize money for all 9 teams over and above the original allocation, which also feeds into additional bonuses for all of those teams' employees. The drivers, Nick Heidfeld and Heikki Kovalainen, when you disqualify Alonso from the Singapore Grand Prix, remove his 10 points, Alonso finished behind those 2 drivers in the Drivers' Championship that season. That elevates the 2 drivers up a position in that table. That impacts their bonus that they receive on their contract for their finishing position in that year's championship. That alters the perception of their ability as a driver. That impacts every future contract that they sign, their future earnings, their future opportunities, their future marketing rights. This is the impact of Ecclestone's fraud. But the journalist here can't identify that. So, Massa world champion, Hamilton without a title, and Michael Schumacher sole record champion? ? I still feel sorry for Massa today. He won his final at his home race in Sao Paulo and did everything right. He was cheated out of the title he deserved. This is according to Ecclestone. This is a quotation from Ecclestone. Believing who deserved it. When you manipulate things, when you pick and choose, oh, what are we going to do with this one who's cheated? Oh, somebody's cheated in here. What do we do? Well, if we cancel the event, we can change the outcome of the championship. Or do you look at that and go, well, somebody's cheated. What do we do? Well, what you have to do is just disqualify the cheat. You don't set the precedent of voiding the event, because that opens the whole situation to manipulation. So he was cheated out of the title he deserved, while Hamilton had all of the luck in the world. Hamilton had all of the luck in the world. Well, I'll also put a link to Spa, the Spa Grand Prix of 2008, and we'll see what luck he had there at the hands of the FIA stewards. So, again, this is billionaire Bernie projecting that Hamilton had luck that season. You filthy, filthy old cunt. So, and won his first championship. Today, I would have arranged it. I would have arranged it differently. Bernie admitting to arranging it, to manipulating it, to defrauding. You see here, Judge, you're representing somebody who manipulates outcomes, who defrauds a population, and you're a UK judge representing him, projecting an argument. He's just forgot. Well, let this jog his memory. So, and if you want to question the validity of this, there'll be a man coming up who you can, what do we use in the United States? Is it subpoena? You can summons him in front of the court. You can make him pledge an oath of truth. You can make him swear on a book that he's probably not read. But he'll tell you whether this is the truth. And he may have a recording of it. That constitutes evidence, by the way. Yeah, material evidence, just in case you didn't know. Because I know judges don't understand what actual material evidence actually is. I know that from personal experience. Instead, they rely on found facts that they've just made up in order to contrive an outcome the way that they want it to be. Corrupt motherfuckers. Anyway, I still feel sorry for Massa today. So we've gone through that. Today, I would have arranged it differently. That's why Michael Schumacher is still the sole record world champion for me, even if the statistics say otherwise. End of quotation. So there's a lot of quotations this guy's making up, if he's making them up. Yeah? So, author. So that's the end of the article. And this is the man who has made these claims that Ecclestone said that. Now, that either claims or Ecclestone said that. Now, this is the man you need to get in front of a court of law. And you need to get this man there to swear an oath to say that this is the truth. This took place. And he should have evidence. And if he doesn't have evidence, then what are we doing? What are we doing? Are we taking the word of this man? Or are we taking the word of a 95-year-old man who just can't remember? Can't even remember giving the interview. Well, if you can't remember, you don't know the difference between right and wrong. But what you are, Bernie, is a convicted criminal. Convicted of misleading people. Convicted of deceiving people. So the notion of suggesting, oh yeah, just don't remember. Yeah, well, you're a convicted liar, Ecclestone. So just saying you don't remember is not a good enough excuse. Ralph Back's home is the Formula One circus. Indeed, it is the Formula One circus for around 30 years. He has been reporting from the premier class for Sport Build, Auto Build, Motorsport, Sport One, and the Ippen Network, TZ Munich, Frankfurter Rundschau. For his exclusive stories, he was inducted into the Formula One Paddock Hall of Fame on F1Insider.com. He describes what makes the protagonist tick. Twitter, at Ralph Bond. So if you're on Twitter, hit Ralph up. So it's Ralph Bond on Twitter and Ralph Back here on this article. I'm going to put a link to the article. The judges, in the British legal system, you'd have thought would have been able to work out. But Bernie here is saying he can't remember giving the interview to this motorsport publication. Is there any evidence of that publication? Shall we get in touch with the author of that publication and verify it? Because if evidence of that exists, then surely it blows our bullshit case out of the water, doesn't it? You corrupt fucking cunt. You corrupt cunt. And this is a UK judge. This is a corrupt cunt who makes decisions over people's lives. This is the corrupt UK judiciary. Criminal bastards. Oh, absolute bastards. And I'm going to make sure the head of the judiciary, Sue Carr, does something about a cunt in her ranks. And he's not the only one. Thank you for your time.